Are we there?
Just about. Yep, we're gonna.
All
Got it.
right. Welcome to our live, everybody. I'm Adrian Park, and with me today, again, our founder, Jay Carter.
Hello, hello.
All right. So I think this is going to be fun
Mm-hmm.
um, because this is one of my favorite things to talk about. Didn't used to be, but it is today. So, so last week, or sorry, 2 weeks ago, rather, we spent some time talking about like mindset. I think what some people call golden rituals, right? If you didn't see it, check it out. It's posted here in the group. One of the challenges I had, so I had a few years ago, in fact, early on in running in a construction business was uh, having, it's like drinking from like six fire hoses all at once,
Mm.
right? There's always something I had to follow up on, and it's like this job has a problem, this job has a problem. Following up on estimates and doing it, and not letting stuff fall through the cracks, and then this guy doesn't show up, or this guy's continuously late, and so we've got to discipline him, and not having a system for that. And then equipment problems, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so for me, where I got into, like, the pattern for me was I would get into overwhelm, right? Where I
Mm-hmm.
was just like, it's like and I would burn so hot. And
Mm-hmm.
then maybe it was 6 weeks, maybe it was 8 weeks, maybe it was 10 weeks, but then I would burn so hot and then I would burn out.
Yep.
And then I would go down, and this was like probably the last time this happened was like 2017. So it's been a few years, but I would go down, and I mean, I would go down hard and fast, and I would be down for like minimum of 3 days, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, minimum of three. I mean, it was brutal. Sometimes it was like, I remember like one November, I was like, I think it was end of 16. I was just like, I was down for like a week. I mean, couldn't move. Like, not, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a wuss, like I was
Right.
genuinely like toast. And I mean, that was, it's like one of those things that I think like a lot of things in life, when we don't, um, like what you resist persists, right?
Right.
And but I got so sick of being so sick all the time, you know, just knowing that that was coming, and just something had to give, right? So anyway, I learned how to start saying no to shit.
Yep.
Um, and that, because like some things, like I think, so much of the time, I think we get caught in that trap, that achiever's trap, right? Where,
Mm-hmm. We got to be
we
everything to
want,
everyone.
yeah, like we think, we get this great feel, we feel important, we feel significant because, we just point our gun and it's like solution, 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 solution,
Right.
but we don't have to solve all that stuff. It's why you have employees.
Right.
You know what I
So,
mean? And some things don't even need to be addressed.
again, from my perspective, I see this all the time. I've lived through it, but when I lived through
Right.
it, I didn't understand it. So
Right.
here's a couple of things that I'd have to say that really contribute to this. So first of all, we have a culture where contractors are not supposed to feel. We're supposed to be the tough guys. We're, like you said it right there.
Right.
Like, I'm supposed to be tough. I can take this. I can
I'll
do
do
this.
it. Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
everything is on me. If I don't do it, like this, like we're always fighting this invisible enemy. All right.
Yeah.
And what you have to understand is that what you're describing right there, all right, is a state of anxiety. All right. It's
Yeah.
because we're achievers, we're forced to look into the future. All right. And the second we want to look into the future and we get, even if you get excited, even if you're like, yeah, man, I want that. Okay. And we push ourselves towards that objective. All right. What you have to understand is in that state of mind, all right, your body's responding to it as if
Right.
it's a fight or flight. Right. If you're
Right.
constantly in the fight, all right. And
Right.
remember, society pushes us to be constantly in the fight.
Right.
This,
Hustle
this
culture.
hustle culture, all this other
Yeah.
stuff. And really what it's doing is the opposite effect, because what you'll find is that you stay stuck
Right.
longer, bigger, you're getting sick because
Yeah.
it's not, again, your body, your mind may be all in. And again, I see this all
Right.
the time. I went through it, I lived it, I acknowledge it, right? It's
Right.
but your body Your body does what it has to do to protect itself. And if you're telling it all the time that we're in war, we're going to fight, your
Right.
body only will go so long. And then
Yeah.
here's the other thing that people don't understand, and then I see over and over and over again, is that we put barriers up. We put blocks. Oh, they take a loss or something like that, and all of a sudden that becomes the anxiety too. And let me
Right.
explain to you something about it, right? The unfortunate part about anxiety, is that absolutely, and I'm going to just say it how it is. Fuck all new or creative gets done in that state of mind. Okay.
Right. That's
Absolutely
right.
nothing. We fall back on our habits. We
Right.
fall back and we're in a state of survival. Nothing new, creative,
Right.
nothing happens. Okay.
Right.
And then what ends up happening is over an extended period of time, they call this chronic stress and chronic fatigue and chronic,
Yeah.
you're opening your body up for disease and all types of other issues. But it also puts you into, when things slow down, and Adrian, we've talked about this, when things slow down or there's a significant change, sometimes we end up on the side of depression, where now we're blaming, we're pointing our fingers, it was this, it was that, and it makes us weak. And it all stems back to this first place that we're at. And again, I've talked to and know of, and I see the patterns across a lot of different business owners, and the ones that I find have something very important, I guess, to kind of understand, is that they find more time in their day and in their life to be present, right?
Yeah.
And falling back into what you're saying is, I don't give a shit how many hours you work. I don't care about that. And myself too. We've talked about my scorecard and everything else. I don't care if you work 14, 15 hours. I could probably do that in 3 hours, all right, if I was present or if you were present, okay?
Right.
So the time present is what you need to be focused on. If you can be present for 4 hours, and everyone, like, think about the times, like when we find that perfect, opportunity where we just get shit done and everyone knows it, right?
Yeah.
What if you could be in that state consistently all the time?
Yeah.
Not waking up with the brain fog, not waking up feeling like you're hungover from work. Like, hungover from work is a real thing. And that's basically a chemical reaction. All right. It's because your adrenals have been taking cortisol, and dopamine, adrenaline. Like, again, you cannot survive in that state of mind. It turns your body acidic. It opens you up for disease. Like, there's a whole big problem. And really the long-term effects, and I think we're going to chat a little bit about those, but long-term effects are, if you're never present, okay, you're coming home, you might be present in your eyes or in your mind, but what are you teaching your children? How are you teaching your children? And there's studies, there's tons of information that goes out. I mean, if you're in anxiety, even when your kids are small babies, okay, and you come home with that, your child picks up on that, and they pick up that, and they become into a state of anxiety. And it's a terrible place to live. Like, we as men think that, well, that's just what I need to do. Right. That's how you're successful. And I assure you it's not. I assure you it's not. And if you want to think that way, all right, what you're going to find out is that your children are going to be anxious. All right. If you're in a state of depression, your children are going to find that state. Again, you got to think about these things. Your relationship. Okay. How many relationships are in a state of anxiety where we're thinking about things that didn't happen? And that's a symptom, again, of being in the fight or flight, being in the, the constant chase of something. And really it takes the fun out of life, right? It keeps us on the infamous hamster wheel, right? Yeah. Make sense?
Yeah. I'm a recovering, workout, workaholic. I mean, that doesn't mean I don't work hard now. I mean, still work very hard, but I spent so many years, and even after I stopped getting sick and I started getting a little more balance, it's like, there are phases, right? Like, even today, like, I have a lot more presence and peace, just day to day. And interestingly, I get more shit done.
Right. Well, and that's just it. So, I mean, again, I've through many failures discovered that, hey, the way you structure your day is more responsible for what you get done and how you get it done in your state of mind than anything else. There is no again, stop chasing the boogeyman. All right.
Right.
And really, like, if you don't have a plan that you start your day out with, that's again structured, routine. And again, you want the secret, like the routine is the secret. The
Yeah.
knowing that I'm going to focus on these high level tasks. If you're just waking up every day going, hey, I'm going to take and put out whatever fire comes at me, all right, that's what's going to happen.
So
You've
rough.
woke
Yeah.
up
It's,
with it, right?
yeah.
And
Right.
and again, you're going out and you're taking society's, you know, message that I just solve everything. I'll take it all on. Okay. Well, you might be able to do it for years, a couple of weeks, months, years, but it's going to catch up to you. And I think the real point I want to bring up on this call is that's going to land on somebody that didn't buy into this fight that you're fighting, this invisible enemy that you're fighting.
Right.
And that's going to be on your relationship. That's going to be
Yep.
on your children. Okay. And that's going to be on anything else that you value in your
Right.
life. Okay.
Right.
And again, I don't like, we'll really look at the cause and effect, you know, of it, you know, looking at, you know, the solution is it's too simple to actually work, right, Adrian? It's just too simple.
Right.
You know, we'll try and
Yeah.
convince you that there's, you know, small little changes to our mindset that can allow us to be, again, in the more optimal state, which is present, right?
Yeah.
So Adrian, maybe you could tell me, describe to me your state of present. How do you feel in that state? Like what happens?
Yeah. Good question. So, I mean, for me, um, I am, if I'm, I can be, well, that's also it. I can be, when I'm present doesn't have anything to do with, like whether I'm like super excited or super chill,
Hmm.
right? It's, it's if I'm by myself, right? So if I'm working in here, then me being present is, you know, I have like everything, all of my intelligence and everything, you know, is available to me, right? So if I'm thinking through a problem, I'm not stressed about it and like
Hmm.
trying to smash my way through it. Like I gotta beat this fucking problem. It's um listening, I'm thinking, adapting. If it's I'm with my partner or if I'm with my kids, it's, you know, like actually, I mean, even if like my son is saying something that I don't find particularly interesting, I don't really want to talk about, you know,
Right.
which is part of being a parent. Like I just listen, you know,
Hmm.
and I let him, you know, tell me about whatever he wants to tell me about, or if it's one of the girls, or my partner, same thing, you know, like if she's, you know, I mean, you know, that's a whole different animal, but like, you know, I mean, if you're married or you're in a relationship, you know, women like to give meadow reports. They go out into the meadow and they, you know, look at all the berries and all the flowers and they come back and they want to tell you about it, you know?
Hmm.
And they don't want you to they don't want you to fix the meadow or give them a better path through the meadow. They just want to tell you about the meadow, and you just got to listen and be
Ah,
present for that 5 minutes, right?
right.
Like that's
Right.
it.
So do
There's
you
no
think
solution. So that's what it is for me.
right. So I'll describe to you my present. My present is literally um being able to catch opportunities or catch, you know, small cues, small subtle things
Yeah,
that help me
right.
to solve problems that you know are done easily. It's action.
Yeah.
It really comes down to this. All right. Now, I mean, your partners are, you know, all of our partners are different, but mine likes to give me clues. She doesn't necessarily tell
Right.
me what she's trying to indicate, but
Yes.
it becomes
Oh
pretty
yeah.
obvious. And
Right.
as tension rises, I
Right.
have to look for the cues because she wants me to figure out the puzzle, right? So, and and
Yeah.
and it's her way of saying, like, pay attention, right? I'm saying
Yes.
something to you, but I'm not going to tell you directly because you're
Right.
smart enough to figure this out.
Right.
And really,
She
you know,
thinks.
she, well,
She
but
thinks.
it's she makes it. I shared with you one of the stories of me pulling the plastic off the camera thing, but
Right.
it's like that. It's very obvious, right? So, you know, and it forces me to think outside of my thinking
Right.
process, right?
Right.
Because whatever I'm stuck on, you know, now you're dealing with another issue, and it forces me to come back to earth and be like, oh, you wanted me to pick those boxes up you put right in front of the
Right.
stairs. I get it.
Right.
I get it. I see what you're saying. And again, it makes you feel silly. Same thing with
Right.
dealing with children, right? Like they're the I guess they're the best example that you can have if you're truly watching what they're doing and their behavior, you know what's going on, right? But if you're not, and all of a sudden you come into their world, all right, why is this kid screaming and yelling?
Yeah.
Why is the kid
Right.
screaming? And a lot of times we're so stressed out, so strung out, and we're still in our own world
Right.
about this
Yeah.
problem that doesn't exist or hasn't happened yet, that we ignore those things. And that's really that's the danger of bringing that and not being, being able to stop it, right? So I think
Yeah.
a lot of guys, contractors, we don't talk about it, right? It's not something that's,
No.
talked about. We sometimes misinterpret what it is. And
Right.
I've come up with a couple of things that help me to break it. So first of all, and I've told you my routine, but I get up, at 4 a.m. I get
Hmm.
everything done that's really important. That's going to take a lot of my brain energy, my brain
Right.
juice. I get it done by 7 or 8. You too, we both work out at around 10. All right. Now this can be a walk, this can be anything, but just like
Right.
get
Just move your
active, get
body.
your blood
Yeah.
moving. And
Yeah.
I mean, again, some people do it to have big muscles. I just do it to like keep my heart rate,
Yeah.
and that's been very helpful. The other thing is, when you catch yourself, okay? So when you start letting your thoughts run your world,
Right.
right? And you've got all this thing, like if you're flipping through ideas and like, oh, this could happen, and running different scenarios, stop. Okay, just stop right there. Take some
Right.
deep breaths. Okay, slow yourself down. Get control of your breathing. Get control of, like, consciously call it out and say, hey, you
Yeah.
know what? I can't do all of these things and I can't control them.
Yeah.
All right. Just breathe. Take, 10 minutes to just stop. All right. You can afford 10 minutes. You're never going to be that busy,
Yeah.
and get calm. The same thing if you're coming back into the house, right? Or you're coming back into your child's world, your wife's world. Okay.
Right.
Adjust yourself for that. All right. Is that
Right.
their time? And on my calendar, I have family time. Okay. It's about 4 hours a day from 5
Yeah.
till 8. It's on my calendar. There's no excuses, and I'm held accountable to it. Believe me. Right. There's no clues for that one. I'm just, I cross a line and there's a boundary, and there's, I'm not getting dinner or something if I cross it. But but I have gotten into the habit of, I've got a million things going on. I have lots of
Right.
stuff that's happening, but I know I can't actually do those things well, all right, and see opportunity
Yeah.
and make my life easier unless I have this part of my life right. If I can't get this right, I have no business trying to do the other
Yeah.
things. So you take that 10 minutes, breathe, get control of it, and focus on what you're doing, and a lot
Yeah.
more gets done. A lot happier life.
So this isn't in my notes, but yes, no, today's Friday. So Tuesday, I had to schedule my car for some service, and I was just gonna take it down. He's like, I can't fit you in. I was like, fuck, so I'm driving back home, and after having scheduled my car for service, and I hit a pothole, and it
Mm.
immediately, and this hasn't happened. I don't. This may be the second time in my life this happened. Boom, and blows it out, and I'm like, mother, oh, So because I had a plan.
Right.
I had a whole things I was going to do, and I was like, and so anyway, so I'm on the side of the road, and I'm like, well, I mean, I'll just change it. So I start grabbing stuff out of the trunk, and I bought this car last year, bought it used, and I realized after I started jacking it up, I don't have a lug wrench. So now I'm like, so now I have to call, this roadside assistance. And anyway, long story short, so I'm sitting there going, I'm paying a knucklehead tax here because I obviously should have looked to see if there's a bloody
Right.
freaking lug wrench in there. But oh, and by the way, it wasn't inflated either. So not only did I not have a lug wrench, but the
Sounds like some
steroid.
people's job sites.
Right. So I was like, so I'm sitting there, and I schedule it, and it's like they're going to be there in 3 hours. So so there's the nearest. I'm thinking, okay, I could walk but then I could walk, get a lug wrench, but I can't. How am I going to inflate it? So I'm sitting there doing it, and I realized finally, okay, I'm just going to wait for the guy. And so I'm sitting there, just sitting in my car, flat tire, and I was like, you know what? And I'm starting to get stressed out. And I thought, you know what? At this point, I'm paying the knucklehead tax. There's nothing I can do. So I
Hmm.
was like, you know what? And there wasn't really anything I could do on my phone. So I was just like, I'm just going to catch up with my friends. because I don't
Mm,
talk, I don't do that as much as I used to, because I used to be on the road a lot more, running the
yep.
construction business. So I was like, and I said, and I'll just, I was going to do I was going to take, I have a kind of a Wednesday routine, which is really more of a half day. So
Yeah.
I was like, well, today's my Wednesday. It's my light day. And tomorrow I'll just, throttle down. Right.
Right.
And I literally talked to all of my friends and had these great conversations. And, and actually, one of my friends wants to buy what we're selling, which is awesome.
Hmm.
He's got two businesses. He's like, can you help us with both of them? Like, yeah, I can actually.
Hmm.
So, so I had a really great afternoon. I sat there, I had air conditioning, so I was comfortable and it's a beautiful day.
Right.
And so I was on the side of the road for 3 hours. I got some weird looks, obviously, sitting there in my car on the flat tire, but it was fine. It was
Yep.
totally fine. And instead of being stressed the whole 3 hours thinking of all the things I'm not getting done, I actually enjoyed myself because I connected with my friends. And this is, by the way, 1 year ago version of me would not have had that experience. 1 year ago
Right.
version would have been stressed out. I'd have been calling all my men and like rah, all pissed off, and I'd have probably taken it out on them. And I actually had a great time. And I thought to myself, driving home after a spare was on, I thought, like, even if this hadn't happened and I had gotten back here and I had crushed and I had gotten all the things done I wanted to get done, and
Hmm.
it was like, and if it was even like one of the top 1% of productive days, I still would have had stuff to do the next day, right?
Hmm.
There's still going to be more to do. So I was just like, it's fine. And,
Right.
it's like those little things. And so, one of the things that, for anyone watching now, or for anyone watching this later, one of the things I had to learn in probably the third year being a CEO was no.
Right.
Right. So, and my team was not trained on this.
Hmm.
I inherited them. I didn't hire them.
Chief
So
firefighter.
yeah. So, so someone would call wanting to sell us something and they'd put it on my calendar.
Yeah.
Right.
Crazy.
They lead would come in and it was way out in Bumble F, Pennsylvania. And it was a $5,000 lead, and I driving all the way to Bumble F, Pennsylvania. Right.
Hmm.
Like, so, I kind of had to become like a child and just like, like your 2 or 3 or 4 year old just says no to everything. No, 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 no,
Hmm.
no. Like salesman would call. No, like
Hmm.
lead would come in. That was again, like clearly not our target market, clearly not our dream buyer. No.
Right.
GC would call to like, give us a quote on like, give us an idea of
Yeah.
what it cost. Fuck no.
Yeah.
Right. And, it was hard at first because one, my team didn't like that, because especially like one of our admins at the time, she was like, wanted to say yes to want to make everybody happy. And she thought that was
Right.
saying yes to everybody.
Right.
And I had to
So
train.
her anxiety
Yeah.
of missing out
Right.
was causing you the anxiety of having to
Right.
deal with
She's
it.
just
Yep.
putting that on me, like, so to take all these meetings.
Right.
And so it was a big adjustment. And really, like, I don't think there was a single, like, anyone on my team that was supportive of this.
Right.
Right. Like, because they were all pissed off that I wasn't doing what they thought I should be doing. But the proof of the pudding is in the eating, right?
Right.
Because like sales improved,
Hmm.
because we stopped looking at bullshit leads.
Hmm.
We had a lot fewer problem jobs because we were actually working with our target customers. And like one of the things that, like, I didn't realize that the owner didn't know how to write a change order. And this is not, I'm not making that up. Like, he
No,
didn't know
I
how to write
believe
a
it.
change
I see
order.
it. We see it every day. What do you mean?
And I was like, and so I was like, I realized we were literally doing, on average, probably $250,000 for free.
Yep.
That's not,
No,
that's not exaggeration.
I see it.
And so anyway, long story short, like, not only did the business get more fun and better, and we had a lot less like bullshit, like problems, but like we did between $300,000 in change orders for like 4 years in a row. I mean, it was like, which had a material impact, on the business, right? I mean, that was a, 10 to 13%, depending on the year of our total revenue. So it was for me, it was like, first of all, I stopped getting, I really, I had COVID a couple times, but other than that, like, I really haven't gotten sick like I did in 17. Right. And, stopped like paying that dumb tax or that knucklehead tax with my body. And, you know, I mean, have a dramatically different. Jay, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I don't
Oh,
know what just happened.
wow.
All good?
So yeah. So anyway, so I was saying that things changed really dramatically for me because I stopped just saying yes to everything.
Right.
And I mean, the thing is, like a lot of other things, it starts to compound. And here's something, anyone watching, like, try this. Like, if you keep to-do lists, sometimes you forget to mark things off, and sometimes you have like an old to-do list from 6 months ago or a year ago. I had this experience where I would go back and see an old to-do list, and I would go through all the things I didn't do. And you know what?
Depressing.
No, wasn't say, but then I was like, nothing happened.
Right.
Like, it was like there was no consequence, because the reality is a lot of the stuff we end up putting on our to-do list, we don't actually have to do.
Right.
Right.
Well, here's a very important, point that you're making here that I see, very often is by having the power to say no. Okay, is retraining your team or getting your team to take ownership of something. Okay, when you force if you enable your team, okay, to need you for everything, you created a rake. And I see this every day, all the time. The owner comes in and he's got his hand in everything. Okay. Yep. I want to know about this. I want to know about that. Like, you miss this opportunity. And I think a lot of us start off that way as more of a manager, right? More of a, demanding, like wanting to see all the details. And for me, after doing it for, a number of years, and we'll call it the classic micromanagement, because I didn't know any better. All right. What I found is, like, the talent on my team just sucked. It was like no one could figure anything out themselves. But it wasn't my team. It was me. I sucked. I sucked as a leader because I didn't give them the freedom, all right, to use their brain, to solve their own problems, to create the culture of solving problems together. Right. Now, if something requires my attention, all right, I want to know about it. But if you don't, give your team enough room to even make mistakes. Hey, sometimes they're going to make the wrong call, but to really go through the process of solving the problems on their own, they're always going to come back to you. So that's where no comes into place. But I would add one piece to it. So when I'm doing this, and we work with tons of teams, and I see it, in every business across the board, and I've seen micromanagers from hell. I've really, I got a good grip on this one. And what I try and do, and what I try to suggest, is start off with saying no, but give an explanation. All right. So no, I'm not going to, take that call. And, here's why. Next time when this call comes in, I want you to XYZ. Okay. So you're given an explanation, and for a little while, it's just turning the stuff away. And believe me, you got to look at the value of your time. All right. Yeah, when we're looking at the value of our time, and we're saying, is this a $150, $200 an hour task, or is this a $25 an hour task? Once you start to look at things like that, like those phone calls, all that other, it's meaningless. And then the way I prefer to do it, and everyone's a little different, but I use my calendar. I don't have a to-do list. I despise to-do lists. Don't tell me what to do. I'll do, but I wake up every day and I have my calendar where I put my stuff in, right? And my calendar looks crazy, but really it's not. It's more, I get a lot of productive stuff done, and I don't have to think or, put myself in anxiety about all the shit I've got to do. All right. I plan that out. I spend a designated amount of time where my brain is functioning for me. It's not overwhelmed. It's not stressed. And guys, guess what? The opportunities come to me. I don't chase them. I'm not out there finding them. They come to me. And there's a reason for that, right? And there's, the other thing that I think I do very well, and I've seen, is my job's not really to, be the star in the business. And I think a lot of owners have got this mixed up. It's your job's not to be the star, and your job's not to be right all the time. Your job is to get it right and to make other people shine. If you can get out of your own way and start to recognize that people want to be led, okay? Are you a leader at home? Are you a leader in your family life? Are you a leader in the community? Are you a leader? Like, you can't just show up and be the leader or be the boss, right? And think that you're going to get away with it, right? Because your intent isn't really there. If you're going to be a leader in all areas of your life. And the difference between being a leader, being a boss, or somebody stuck, okay, is really the process of allowing yourself to give, allowing yourself to recognize first, to be conscious of, all right, is this activity, all right, does this activity have to involve me? All right. And then giving people the power to solve their own problems, because you will see a huge difference in your staff, and you will develop people around you by giving them the trust. All right. Now, again, here's a good method to it, and it's the trust but check, right? So we're going to give them something. We're going to challenge them. We're going to put something in their hands. And when they do fail, we're not going to get mad. We're not going to get the anxiety up. We're, again, I have a good, value system that goes around is I don't mind failure. I embrace it. Failure is a part of winning, right?
Right.
What I don't want, and where things become serious is if we're making the same mistakes over and over and over again and not learning. That's if you create a culture around that and you allow that to go forward, and despite your efforts, you're still having something fail. That means you have the wrong person in the wrong spot, right? You have to take accountability and be a leader there and move whatever is causing that continuous problem. And we all have them. I mean, if you really sit down and think very clearly about where job site problems come from, you're going to find that most of them, all right, if not all of them, come from sales to production handoff. I'll just say it, right? Where those details were missed. And why is that? Because we don't plan, maybe, right? Yeah. We don't have the right process in place to allow us not to have to worry. And then we get sucked into it and we're customizing plans for every job. And, there's no forethought to put into it. And then more importantly, once you have a system, you teach that to somebody else. I see owners hanging onto the systems like someone's going to steal this from me. No, dumb. That's not nobody. There is no, again, it kills me when I hear this. It's like I have this crazy system, and I'm like, believe me, systems are not worth anything. And I mean, there was way crazier systems out there. You don't have anything that has not been done before. Okay, very few out there. Okay, so rather than that, you should be changing that mindset to, I'm going to train the shit out of my staff to run this and get better together. And more importantly, have them contribute to it. Don't make it yours. You don't have a possession. Okay. It's taking it and making it, getting everyone to buy in and improve it. All right. That's how you get to the state where you have real time to focus on real problems, to solve real things. All right. And you're going to see right away, my God, just do those small things. Get your stuff into a calendar, say no. All right. If it doesn't align with your vision and your goal, all right, say no. Customers, everything. It's just so easy. My favorite word in the world is no. And you know that, right? I say no more than I say yes. All right. And I come from a recovering people pleaser, wanting to do everything, and I could take on the world. But can I? And again, this is where it comes from. You that's where the whole I have to grind. I have to keep doing more. More doesn't get you more. More gets you less. Right. You have to do the right things at the right time, and it's much easier to sit back, right, collect your thoughts, and learn to say yes to the things that are going to make the difference. Not yes to everything, because I hope one of these things will make the difference. No, pick a small amount of things that you can control that's within your grip, and look to be focused on being present as often as you can. Because I guarantee you this, all of us looking back on life, the last thing we're going to say is, I wish I worked more. If I could have worked more, right? If I got a couple more hours in. Right? The last thing we're going to say is that. What do you think we're going to be saying? What do you think we'll be reflecting on? Were we good parents? Were we good men? Did we lead did people look up to us? Do we have any legacy left? Or is it just work? Come on. When was the last time you took your wife on a date? When was the last time you honestly, and again, I know it's difficult. We're present. and just, took the time to just be with your kid. And I'll give you a good
Yeah.
example of practicing what I'm preaching. Okay. So yesterday, my daughter I have an office and I have a glass window that's right to the left of me here. And she started bringing her toys and sitting outside the window like she was camped out. And I'm looking at her and I'm going, what are you trying to tell me? I'm just like, I couldn't understand. And like, every time I'd look over at her, she'd jump up and she'd knock on the window and I'd be like, all right. So I told Maria, I'm like, listen, I'm taking the day off. All right. I'm going to hang out with my kid. Right.
Yeah.
And I did. And again, it's little things like that. It's little
Yeah.
stuff like that. Cause I feel supercharged today. I feel like, again, and
Yeah.
for whatever reason, she obviously needed me. She'd got all of her stuff sitting outside the
Right.
door, right? Waiting for me to be there. And again, I feel like I'm in a cage and I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
Like somebody's somewhere, something's telling me that this is the right, I'm supposed to spend the day with my daughter. So I
Right.
did, right? And when you do those things and when you can, shut off the world and be like, and I didn't think everything was just calendar. Like, I'm not worried. Everything, the world will go on.
Right.
Nothing will be missed. My team's like, it is what it is.
Right.
You need to, for a lot of those guys, a lot of the guys out there, you're putting yourself in your own cage. How many of you
Yeah.
feel like you're in a cage? You wake up with that anxiety right away. Right away, you're just like 6 gear
Yeah.
pinned, like, oh, I got to do this. I got to do this. That's
Yeah.
creating that chemical like imbalance in your body, and it's going to burn you out. Like you said, it's going to make you sick. If you don't beat that, you're not beating anything external. You're not going to get where you want to
No.
be, because the guys that win, all right, you got to remember this is a marathon. It's not a race. All right.
Yeah.
If you're racing every day, that's a recipe. You're running a marathon, right? A business is a marathon, and it's
Yeah.
all about getting things in balance, getting things under control, and not being surprised by big fluctuations. And again, this makes you resistant. This is what you teach to your team. This is what you
Yeah.
bring to the table. This is the leadership that you have. If you have nothing going on in your life, no hobbies, no game, like you're not taking care of your family, you are no one to be leading anybody.
Right.
Right. And,
Right.
and I assure
Yeah.
you that. So really take an assessment, look at yourself and say, hey, listen, if I don't improve my relationship with family, if I don't improve the relationship with my family, what else is there? Right.
Right.
If I'm not active, if I'm not, pursuing hobbies outside of work, if I'm not like, what else is there? If you're just working every day, like you're not leading anybody,
Right.
and it's an illusion. And you may think you're doing it for the right purposes, but that's going to show, and it's going to show through largely, and you're going to attract, the wrong things to that. Who do you think is going to take advantage of you? Right.
Right.
Of course, right? Does that make you, when you think scarcity, when you think you don't have enough, you don't,
Right.
does that make it easier to say yes to a below ball price? Of course, right?
Right.
It's a mindset. There's nothing external stopping you from getting what you want. It's only
Yeah.
internal that's stopping you from getting what you want,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean, 100%. I mean, I think you know, what is it? Do, delegate, or delete, right?
Right.
And, and again, I was the most miserable when when I thought I was the most valuable, right, to the business.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's hard to do. And it's not, it just, again, it's not like I used to think, okay, I'm going to flip this switch and then everything's going to change. That's not the way it works, right? We're conditioned to do things or not to do things.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've got to condition ourselves to, so again, like, so when I go back to what I was saying, saying no to all these like bullshit meetings, bullshit leads, et cetera, for what that meant for me was that like my partner and I we had more fun and we did more fun stuff and we traveled a little bit more and like I definitely had like a better quality of life in terms of like my personal life, um and and again like and I just I just had to start saying no to stuff and start letting go, because saying no is just letting go, right? You're just saying, I don't need to do this, right? And that's hard to do. But if for anybody, and again, the people we're talking to and that are in this group are, succeeding, you're winning, you're growing, and you're probably wondering what's next. And again, here's one of the biggest, most painful lessons of my life was not losing everything, which by the way I did, but it was actually getting everything that I wanted and realizing like this is like, and looking around going, is this really what like, and thinking like I had the car, I was, single again, and I was having a good time. I had this fancy high-rise apartment in a big, beautiful city, and I was not happy. I was
Right.
very unhappy, right?
Well, and I mean, that's the cautionary tale here, guys. That's the real thing you have to focus on is more doesn't bring more happiness. More doesn't bring, things you can't get back. Like when your kids
Right.
have grown up, when when your family or when your relationship or divorce or any of these things, it doesn't bring it back. More doesn't get you more. Okay. More, more is an example. Again, when we really look at people who've been successful, okay, when we really look up to the people that um, you know, lead our industry or the people that you want to be. Okay. I challenge you, look really carefully. Make sure that, hey, do they have the telltale signs of somebody that is killing it in all areas of their life?
Right.
Like, I don't want to look up to a guy that just worked himself to death and grinded people, and because he's got a lot of money, that's not success to me. All
Right.
right. And I know people like that, and we've worked with people like that just that's their objective. I look up to people that truly, all right, in all areas of their lives have excelled. And that's the crazy thing. When you start to move that energy that or the mental, grind that you're putting yourself in, and you start applying it into other areas with less resistance. Imagine what happens. Like what would 25 minutes of actual present thought do for your relationship?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Right.
How much
Right.
more like, and again, and then apply that to your children. Like if you spent a half an hour, 2 hours a week, let's say, an hour a week, even for most of us, right? And we're truly present with your kids, found out what they like, do you think you'd get better as a
Right.
dad? What
Right.
about, what about your spirit and like all the other things that are calling you to be good at, and all the other things
Yeah.
that are right now you would call distracting you, all right,
Yeah.
for some of these guys out there? If you were to spend just a little more time consciously thinking about these things, where do you think they would be in a year, 12 months, right? And do you think opportunity would come from that to what you're working on
Yeah.
right now, like in your business?
Right.
Of course they would, right? People see you as a leader and they're attracted to you. Why? Because you're
Right.
happy.
Right.
Everybody wants to be happy. What
Yeah.
is happiness, right? I feel happiness, and what we're all in the pursuit of is we want freedom and time. Okay. When
Yeah.
you get that freedom and time, if you haven't developed your character, you'll have nothing that you can fit in there that will make you
Right.
happy. Right.
Right.
So find the things, work on them. And remember, like, again, you're running a marathon. If you let everything else slip, right, everything else go, when the time comes that you finish your race, there'll be nothing there. There'll be no reward.
Right.
Right. So
Yeah.
let's,
Yeah.
I know we're trying to keep these to 45 minutes. So Adrian, any last words?
No, I mean, the last thing I'm going to say is, for anyone that's listening to this going, those guys are full of shit. Again, speaking for myself here, and as someone who has, I mean, I started my first job I was 7 years old. And so I've worked hard my whole life. Um, and here I am at 47 years old, just learning, getting new lessons about this. And like, I'm probably working less in time than I ever have in my life. And I am easily as productive, if not more productive, problem solving, getting results than I have been at any time. And I mean, and I've had some really big wins and, big successes. And this is by far, and I'm enjoying the daylights out of it. I mean, it's reflected in my relationships. So, it's like anything else. I mean, if we just, when we decide to do something, if we just follow through, there's a lot of really cool stuff on the other side of some follow through. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
anyway.
And again, it's pretty clear message, I think. Hopefully you guys take some of the small changes. Don't try and dive into them all at once. And if you guys are really struggling with this stuff, again, get help from people who have struggled with it but solved it. Right. So, I mean, anytime you guys want to reach out to us, I'm happy to hear the call and hopefully help you out getting through whatever challenges you have.
Yeah, I was gonna say, DM either Jay or me, or comment, tag us in a comment, and
Yeah.
we'll do everything we can to help.
We are going to have some guests on too about these particular topics
yeah,
in the
that's
next
right.
coming weeks. We're going to be, we want to really make sure we stand by what we're talking about here, and it be not just being, your contracting business, but what do you actually need to be successful? And again, these things are it, right? Like,
Yeah.
strengthening your family strength. Like, this is how you get ready to take that next step in your business. And I think we've got some really good thought leaders that we're going to get scheduled into our calls that can help you out in some of these areas you're struggling with. So stay tuned, and we'll have that coming in the next couple of weeks.
All right, everybody, thanks for spending some time with us. We'll be doing these lives again every week on challenges we've faced as operators and solutions that we've used and are using with our clients here at PCC. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.
Bye.